Joining us is Secretary of State candidate Adrian Consonery Jr. Adrian, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to start off with your why. You don't have a lot of statewide recognition yet. Why are you deciding to run for Secretary of State at 25 years old?
Well, it all starts back in 2020. I was a student at Grambling State University, and I was sending in my absentee ballot to have my voice heard in the democratic process of choosing leaders. And instead of me getting the receipt saying that, oh, your vote has been casted, instead I was told my vote had been challenged, and I had 3 days to come back to the state to prove I was who I said I was, or else my vote was being thrown out. This happened for the primary and the general elections, and I fought both times for my vote to go through.
So this happened to you twice?
Twice in the same year.
What was the reasoning?
They said my signatures didn't match. And I was very concerned because my signature matched that of which was on my driver's license, what I had to submit in order to even get a ballot to come to me. And for me to have that type of thing happen twice, I felt, well, this is no coincidence. So I began going down the rabbit hole of voting rights, working in all different types of areas, especially working with nonpartisan organizations all across the country, going into communities and making sure that people knew the right to vote and the resources that they had available in order to let their voice be heard. But when it came time to start to think about how I could really make an impactful difference, I got tired of going against the system, and I said, if I want to see the change happen, I need to be the change. I need to be able to get into the position and change the system from the inside, or at least invoke some type of impactful movement that can make something happen on a state level, because of course the elections belong to the states. So that type of mentality really fed into me wanting to become Georgia's Secretary of State.
Thank you for that. Now, some people will look at you and say, you've never held political office, you're young, why not maybe work in the office a little bit instead of going for the top job right away? Why did you decide that this is the time that you wanted to run for this?
Well, I can't sit idly by anymore. I mean, I could go and work in someone's office. I could work under the tutelage of someone, which I do appreciate that, you know, there are other people who work in these different fields and aspects, but that doesn't fundamentally change the problems that persist. Unfortunately, we are living in a time right now where if you do not act when you see the change needed, we may see irreparable damage. And by the time I do have said experience, that to come into something of this nature, where there may not be anything for me to save or to work to fix. I'm not even trying to sit here and act as a savior. I just want to fix a problem that I see. And so when people come through and they do have that, I do hear them and I do appreciate it. But I can't sit idly by and continue to let things persist the way that they have been. So when I was growing up, my parents used to always tell me that if you see something that needs to change, don't wait, be the change. So that's what I live my life as. And every step of the moment, every step of the way, I allow myself to continuously take the initiative to do the right thing the first time.
Thank you for that. So we got into your why. Let's dive a little bit into what you would like to see changed if you get the job. What are some of the policies that Brad Raffensperger, current Secretary of State, has enacted that you just don't see eye to eye on and you'd like to come in there and change that?
Right. Well, one thing I will say is, and I do have to at least commend him for standing up for the integrity of the Georgia vote when it came to a certain someone trying to ask for 11,270 votes.
Back in 2020, the phone call with President Donald Trump.
But the thing that I don't like that has persisted is these purging of the voter rolls that continuously happens by the hundreds of thousands that continues to take place. And you know, it's this use it or lose it mentality that comes into play with people's voting rights. And there are a couple other states that do this. I want to say it's around 9 states that use this type of practice. But the problem that has me fixated on this is that the more that you purge people from the voter rolls, the more you silence them. And if someone were to look at this political climate that we have right now, but let's say they haven't voted in a few election cycles, but they've always maintained their registration, but now they're being purged from it. You're having a barrier to entry into participating in this process. Now you're not allowing them to have their voice heard. And you're disenfranchising honest Georgians. You're not giving them their power and their resources to let change happen. So what is this premise that is taking place? And it's not primarily on just Raffensperger, but he is the one that is over the position. So when I come into this position, I want to enact something that allows for us to maintain the registration rolls, still maintain maintenance, but not silence our voters. Another thing of which I would definitely like to change is, like, if there's a challenge that has to take place with a mail-in ballot, why are you requiring them to come back to the state? Mail-in ballots are all throughout all of our country and really all throughout our world.
Internationally.
Exactly, because we have people who are stationed far away into different states and countries who are serving our country right now, who are still Georgians. And to have this premise of, oh, you have to be challenged in order to come back through, in order to let your voice be heard. Why are we doing that? There should be a quicker, more efficient way if you do have questions, because I do understand questions. But
do you have an idea of what that would look like, or is that something you would want to get with your team? If you,
I've definitely got some ideas on some things, although I don't want to share them right now. But trust me, there are a lot of instances of identity checks that exist right now that we are easily able to do from our phones. Something like that could definitely be implemented. Of course, there needs to be more development into it to have the certain safeguards in place to make sure that there's a proper integrity, but this is something that we can do. We shouldn't require Georgians to come back when we're all about productivity and efficiency in Georgia anyway. So we need to make sure that they have that same access.
If I could read you a quote, just because you brought up the recent voter rolls issue. In Columbus, I was able to speak with Gabriel Sterling, who is now also running for Secretary of State, who was the former chief operating officer, I believe, at the Secretary of State's office. And I asked him about his message to people who felt like the move to purge those some 400,000 voters off of the rolls was wrong. What was his message to them? He said, well, they have to argue with the 1993 Motor Voter Act. He's talking about the National Voter Registration Act of 1993, which passed by a Democrat Congress and signed by Bill Clinton, and all state laws. Just a little bit of background on that. It requires the state to maintain accurate voter rolls and only allows them to be removed at the request of the voter if the voter has died, if the voter is convicted, etc. He's quoting this law. Signed by, of course, Democrat Bill Clinton. What is your response to his response? I'm curious.
Well, to put up with something made in 93, which was a great year. In fact, my organization was founded in 93. But to go and put up with that instead of giving an honest answer is the very problem that I have right now with a lot of politics. We don't need that type of mentality when it comes to questions like that. So that's the first thing. Like, if you're going to get into this type of position, give the honest and transparent truth. Give the honest and transparent motion of what needs to happen. And sit down and say, okay, well, this is what you need to do. Instead of saying, oh, go take it up with that instead of talking to me. Now, as far as my answer would be to something like that, I would say, well, let's go and talk with the voters. And what do the voters truly feel needs to happen? Does this give them power? Does this take away their power? Does this amplify their voice, or does this silence them? How can we go about rectifying this? And of course, don't get me wrong, I do understand Bill Clinton did sign that into law, and President Bill Clinton did sign that into law, and it was a definite thing that was probably needed for the times. But the beautiful thing is times are changing. Right now, even as I sit here, I am able to run for this position. This is something that my parents probably would have never dreamed, especially when they were growing up. So as times change, we need to have policies that change with the times. We need to have things that take place that evolve with us as a growing society. Not trying to create this type of division that moves forward, but genuinely give people the changes that need to happen to give them the life that they deserve. The American dream was sold to me and my generation, and we've done everything. We've done everything we can in order to enact it. We've done everything we can in order to experience it, and yet somehow, some way, it feels like it was false advertising. How can we make that a reality? How can we truly live an American dream when America keeps being taken from us?
Thank you. I want to ask you about this controversy over electric voting machines. There was a lot of that happening in 2020, 2022, even this past election year. President Donald Trump saying that now he wants to get rid of mail-in ballots. Some people want to switch to paper ballots. As Secretary of State, if you get this position, what's your take on it? What would you do?
Well, truth be told, doing a plethora of research, because I remember even growing up with my parents, going and voting with them back when those punch cards were there, or when those giant voting machines were there that weren't the electronic ones we have today. Those punch cards with the hanging Chad situation, we can't risk that. That is a form of voter suppression that people cannot get into, because it's very chance-like. Like, my vote is not counting because paper didn't want to break. Like, what are we doing here? But when it comes to us regressing, when it comes to voting, we cannot take a stance or a step backwards in time. Now, of course, again, this is something where we go and we have to talk with the people, educating folks on what does the voting process look like now, having full transparency. This is what happens. These machines that we have now, there's no Wi-Fi connection to them. No one can hack into them. No foreign entity can get into these different machines and give them this awe-inspiring, oh, I'm gonna change the ones and zeros and make everything. No, this isn't the Matrix.
So you think it's about education?
It is a full-fledged thing about education that we can do.
And you're okay with the current electric voting machines?
Yes, I do feel as though, now if there is things that need to change to make them more accessible, then maybe we can definitely take that route and take that look to see what has to happen.
But when it comes to election security, you feel that this machine is secure?
I do feel like this machine is secure. However, we can definitely take more steps so that way the people feel secure. Not necessarily saying like, oh, we're doing our job, just be fine with it. No, that's not how we need to look at it. If people want to feel more secure in the process of it, then we need to enhance what we have. We don't need to take a step back. Taking a step back in any type of mentality of what we do, it's a slap in the face to the progress that America has already made. And we can't risk that.
Can I ask you about just staying on the topic of election security, as well as security and protection at the voting precincts? If you get this job, of course, you will be overseeing the elections for the next presidential election. What are your thoughts about how the last couple of elections have gone? Some people have been concerned about voter intimidation at the voting precincts. Some people have been concerned about security and election fraud. We've heard that word thrown out so much, right? What's your take on that if you were to get this job?
Well, the first thing is, no matter how loud you say a word, that doesn't make it reality. To scream voter fraud, voter fraud, voter fraud, yet you can't show the true sense of voter fraud. You can't show the true instance of it happening, but you have so much speculation and hysteria that surrounds it. Hysteria and facts are very different. So now, when it comes to the voter intimidation aspect, that is definitely something that needs to be addressed. Because, and I'll be honest with you, as someone who has worked in a bunch of nonpartisan organizations, SB 202 is one of the bills that have been signed into power that has truly damaged our voting integrity as a state. There is no reason we should have even thought about making it a felony to give somebody water in line. There is no reason for that. But there is no reason for us also within the same bill to have it to where you only get one ballot drop-off box for every 100,000 voters in an area. And yet we're going and purging hundreds of thousands of voters from the voter registration rolls every odd year. And then you're putting the ballot boxes in buildings that close after 5. What are we doing? So when it comes to the access that we need to have at these polls, and when we go and we give our people the security, we need to make sure that people understand this is no place for you to have any type of political violence. This is a place that should be honored. This is a place and a time that should be completely celebrated when it comes to the American ideology of how we view our leadership. I'm a firm believer that voting should be celebrated. You should have people so excited to participate in this process. You should have it to where people understand, like, hey, I am letting my voice be heard. This is not a process that gets to happen all across the world. And so we need to cherish it. We need to protect it. And we need to celebrate the fact that this is how change happens in our nation. And if we do not give that type of celebration factor to this, then of course intimidation will come, because people only try to intimidate what they are afraid of. And that is not what people need to be afraid of. People should not be afraid of change. They should not be afraid of voting. And I know for a fact that I am not afraid of May of 2026 or November of 2026, because whatever happens, it's the people's voice that was heard. But we should not stand in the way of it.
Thank you. Being mindful of the time, just two more questions for you. One is really kind of targeted to your generation that is known for not voting and staying at home. You are going to be running in a midterm. If you get this position, you will be overseeing the next presidential election. Do you have any ideas about how to motivate that young group of voters who hear about everything? They might tweet about it or, go on Instagram, but they did not go vote.
Well, I'll have to first answer that question with the question, which camera do I look into so that way I'm looking directly at the crowd?
I think it's this one right here.
This one? Okay. Hi. We're the first generation to have everything laid out before us. This is the first time in human history that every bit of knowledge has ever been given to us at one time. We've been a consumer of knowledge ever since we were born. And to be grown and raised in a society that has technological advancements far beyond what we could have possibly imagined just 30 years ago, we now have the responsibility of using the knowledge that we have and applying it to our lifestyles. We can no longer just sit back idly by and wait and just let life go. This is a time for us to truly react. This is a time for us to truly go and let our voice be heard. The reality that we want to live in and the reality that we want for our children, the reality we want for our grandchildren, we have to start thinking about it now. And there is no reason for us to sit back and wait for anyone to come through, for anyone to just let their will be the only will that is heard. If you have a voice, if you have the ability, and if you have the right, go vote. Because that is the only way we will let our voice truly be heard when it comes to rooms that we may never step foot in. It is time to go and vote.
Thank you. My last question to you. You do not have much name recognition right now. You have a long road ahead of you. Some people might see you as a wild card, even being a Democrat trying to unseat a Republican. Well, not really unseat because this is an open race, right? But flipping that seat.
Right.
What is your plan to get the name Adrian Consonery Jr. out there?
Well, the biggest thing is just going and meeting people. I used to work in jewelry, and I loved just having everybody come through. Talking to people is my favorite thing to do. I currently, I work with food service, so seeing people come in and serving in that capacity. I feel as if the only way to truly get people to know me is to go and introduce myself. I have a saying that I live by. I never meet a stranger. I just meet someone I haven't met yet. So I look forward to meeting all of Georgia. I look forward to going to 159 counties and getting to talk with the people that are there, getting to hear their voice, getting to know their message. But at the same time, I look forward to them getting to meet me. Just a boy from Georgia who's ready to see a change. So that is my biggest thing. I look forward to it. It is definitely a gargantuan task, I won't lie, but that is something that I've learned even through football. Any gargantuan task is accomplished with a team. So if you would like to help me with getting all across Georgia, please help me. AJforGA.org. And I look forward to seeing you guys out there.
Mr. Consonery, thank you so much for being here with us. We look forward to having you back here on the Georgia Vote.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.